As you probably know, the TOEFL test will change completely in 2026, and the most common questions students have are, what will the new TOEFL look like? Will it be easier? In today's video, we'll answer these questions and discuss the structure of the new TOEFL test. We'll also briefly review the structure of the current version. For a more in-depth comparison, including the advantages and disadvantages of each test, feel free to watch the videos on the TOEFL test channel. As we go along, I will also share some tips and advice about what I see students struggling with when preparing for the updated version of the test. Hello everyone, I'm Anastasia and I've been teaching the TOEFL for over 10 years. I've spent the last couple of months working on the new format, breaking it down to determine the best way to answer the questions. Since many of my one-on-one students will need to take the test after the changes take place, I've been helping them preparing for the new format. This has allowed me to identify the most common problems you might encounter, and I would like to share this information with you. Let's get started. After you watch the video, please let me know in the comments which format you plan to take. Like the current version, the new TOEFL consists of 4 sections: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Currently, the test takes 2 hours to complete. The new format will be about an hour and a half long, which is even shorter. The first section will be the reading section, just as in the 2025 format. Currently, in the reading section, you need to read 2 700 words texts and answer 10 questions after each one. Overall, you will read 2 texts and answer 20 questions. All the questions are multiple choice, meaning you have 4 options to choose from, except for the last question at the end of each text. For that question, you'll need to choose 3 sentences from 6 to summarize the text. You have 35 minutes to complete the section, which gives you an average of about 1 minute and 45 seconds to answer each question. The new format is a bit more customized. Although the basic tasks remain the same, every student will have a slightly different structure. In the new reading section, there will be 35 to 48 questions instead of 20. That may sound like a lot, but the questions themselves will take less time to complete. This section consists of 2 modules. The first is the testing module that allows ETS to evaluate your level. The second module is based on your performance on the first. If you answer more than 60% of the questions correctly, you'll receive the advanced module. If you answer fewer than 60% correctly, you'll receive the easy module. There are 3 types of tasks in both modules: complete the words, read in daily life, and read an academic passage. You will always start with 1 or 2 complete the words tasks. For these tasks, you will read short texts of about 70 to 100 words. The first sentence will always remain unchanged. Starting with the second sentence, every other word will be partially deleted. Your job is to fill in the gaps. There will always be 10 gaps to fill in. This task can be tricky for 2 reasons. First, you have limited time. Second, you need to know which words to fill in. Some words are simple, such as and, only, and that, while others are more academic. You will need to fill in words such as interact, cognitive, essential, and record, among others. This means you should expand your academic vocabulary and use your knowledge of grammar and sentence structure to determine the correct form of each word. Then, you'll usually have read in daily life tasks. There are 2 types of read in daily life tasks. One type includes a short text with 2 questions, while the other has a slightly longer text with 3 questions. The only differences are the length of the text and the number of questions. The texts may be notices, emails, campus announcements, or short social media posts. In my opinion, the questions are fairly simple. The main challenge is answering them quickly, since time is limited. Although the texts will be simpler than those in the current version of the test, they will still include topic-specific vocabulary, such as inventory audit, submit your selection, bakery stall, handmade crafts, vibrant atmosphere, and cordial service. Then, you will complete 1 or 2 longer read and academic passage tasks. You can think of these tasks as simplified versions of the current TOEFL reading tasks. Each passage will be much shorter, about 200 words, instead of the 700-word passages in the current TOEFL. The topics will be similar to those on the current test, but they will be less detailed. Instead of 10 questions, as in the current version of the TOEFL, each passage will be followed by only 5. You will see many familiar question types, such as vocabulary, factual information, rhetorical purpose, and negative factual information questions, along with some new ones. For example, what is the relationship between the 2 paragraphs? Or, what does the passage suggest about something? What is the passage mainly about? As I said, the test will be different for each student, but on average, in Module 1, you will have 1 to 2 complete the words tasks, 10 questions each, 2 to 3 read and daily life tasks, 2 to 3 questions each, 1 or 2 read and academic text tasks, 5 questions each. Overall, the first module will contain 20 to 30 questions. As I mentioned before, your performance in Module 1 will determine which Module 2 you'll receive. If you receive the easier Module 2, you will have 1 complete the words task and 2 or 3 additional read and daily life tasks. You won't have a read an academic text task. You can think of the easier module as very similar to Module 1, but without the academic text. This module will include about 15 to 18 questions. When you add these to the 20 to 30 questions from Module 1, you get a total of 35 to 48 questions, which matches the range mentioned by ETS. If you receive the harder module, you will have 1 additional complete the words task and 1 or 2 read an academic text tasks. You can think of this version as Module 1, but without the read and daily life task. Overall, this module will include about 15 to 20 questions. Combined with the 20 to 30 questions from Module 1, this brings the total to 35 to 50 questions. This is why the official ETS website says that the reading section can have up to 50 questions. The time you get per question differs depending on how many questions and tasks you have. However, ETS gives a maximum of 50 questions and 30 minutes for this part of the test, which means you have about 35 seconds per question. As you can see, the questions do become easier and the texts are much shorter, but the time you have for each question is also much more limited, and the total number of questions increases. The new format reminds me of the SAT, where you have to answer many simple questions in a limited amount of time. Let's jump right into the listening section. In the current version of the test, you will listen to 3 lectures. Each lecture is 3 to 5 minutes long and is followed by 6 questions. You'll also hear 2 3-minute conversations, each followed by 5 questions. So the listening section looks like this: conversation, lecture, conversation, lecture, lecture. The entire section usually takes 36 minutes. There are 28 questions in total. The questions are still multiple choice, which is great because you can still get the correct answer even if you didn't hear or understand something. In the new TOEFL listening section, you will have to answer 30 to 40 questions instead of 28. There will be 4 tasks. One task is listen and choose a response. For this question type, you will listen to 8 sentences or questions in English and then select a response from 4 options. For example, you'll hear the question, Who is responsible for the project timeline? You won't see the question, you'll only hear it. Then choose one of the 4 options. I do, I'm not sure, a few unexpected delays, it stays on track. Feel free to let me know what you think the right answer is in the comments below. This task isn't hard, and I don't think you'll have many problems with it. The 2 main challenges are understanding the sentence or question, and then choosing the correct answer. This task requires knowing the types of questions and the rules for answering them. For example, in our task, I do sounds like a good option, but it's not grammatically correct. If the question asks, who is responsible for something, we need to respond, I am, not I do. Task 2 is listen to a conversation. Think of it as a shortened version of the current conversations. Instead of 3 minutes, each conversation will last only 20 to 30 seconds. Instead of 5 questions after each conversation, there will only be 2. Task 3 is listen to an announcement. Similar to the listen to a conversation task, the recording will be 20 to 30 seconds long, and you will have 2 questions to answer after it. The only difference is that instead of a conversation between 2 people, you will hear an announcement on campus. Task 4 is listen to an academic talk. This is a shortened version of the current lectures. Rather than being 3 to 5 minutes long, as the lectures are now, the academic talks will only last 90 seconds each. You will have 4 questions after each talk, rather than 6. As you can see, lectures and conversations will be significantly shorter, and the number of questions after each recording will be reduced. There will also be 2 new tasks. Listen to an announcement and listen and choose a response. So, Module 1 might look like this. Listen and choose a response task, 8 questions. 3 to 4 conversations, 2 questions each. 1 to 3 campus announcements, 2 questions each. And 1 to 2 academic tasks, 4 questions each. This will give us 20 to 30 questions in the first module again. As with the new TOEFL reading section, if you score below 60%, you'll receive an easier module 2. In the easier module, you may have a few listen and choose a response tasks, followed by several conversations and announcements. You can think of the easier module as the first module without the listen to an academic talk task. If you score above 60%, you will be directed to the harder module. The harder module is very similar to the first module, meaning you will have the same 4 question types. According to ETS, the listening section will include up to 47 questions, and you will have a maximum of 29 minutes to complete this part of the test. As you can see, the conversations and lectures will be much shorter in the new format of the test. So if you've had trouble with concentration before, this change is actually a good thing for you. However, you will need to listen more carefully. In the past, even if you missed part of a lecture, you might not have needed that information to answer the question. With the shorter listening tasks, though, you will need to pay close attention and catch all the details. Now, let's move on to the speaking section. At present, the TOEFL speaking section consists of 4 tasks. One is the independent task, where you will answer a question in 45 seconds after 15 seconds of preparation. This is the part that many students find the most stressful in the current version of the test. The other 3 tasks are integrated tasks and are based on what you read and hear. In the new TOEFL, the speaking section will be moved to the end of the test, after the writing section. There will also be only 2 tasks: listen and repeat. Take an interview. The listen and repeat task is fairly easy. You will listen to 7 sentences, each about 3 to 5 seconds long. The setting may be a tour of the library, a campus gym, a zoo, or an art gallery. You will also see pictures to help with understanding, but I recommend focusing mainly on listening, since the pictures can sometimes be distracting. After each sentence, there will be a short pause, during which you'll need to repeat exactly what you heard. As you move through the task, the sentences will gradually become longer and more complex. When I first saw this task, I thought it was extremely simple and that most people would easily ace it. However, once we started practicing with students, it became clear that this task is actually more challenging than it seems for some of them. First, you can't see the sentences, so this task also tests your listening skills. Many students don't hear the sentences clearly. Some struggle with more specific vocabulary, while others have difficulty repeating the sentences word for word and end up losing or changing some words. To get a high score, you need to repeat the sentences exactly as you hear them. Some students also have trouble with pronunciation or intonation, and others don't enunciate clearly. There are quite a few possible issues. In addition, there is no preparation time. Let's do a short exercise. I'll say a few sentences and you'll repeat them after me. We have a variety of wildlife. Bears, wolves, and large cats are to the right. You can find sea lions and elephants further down the path. Please, no outside food or drinks, and do not feed the animals. Avoid banging or tapping on the displays and enclosures. As you can see, some sentences are quite simple, while others containing words such as banging, further down, displays, and enclosures can be harder. The second task is the take an interview task. You'll have a short conversation with a pre-recorded interviewer, and you'll have to answer 4 questions. In a way, these questions are similar to question 1 of the current TOEFL speaking test. You'll answer 4 questions, and you'll have 45 seconds to respond to each one. However, this time, there will be no preparation time. You must start speaking immediately. The entire section will take a maximum of 8 minutes and will consist of 11 questions. Overall, I would say that the speaking section will be easier for students with strong conversational and listening skills. However, for students at intermediate and upper intermediate levels, it may feel more challenging. In our new TOEFL prep course for the 2026 version of the test, I've included ready-made templates for different question types that help you respond without hesitation. Having a clear structure often makes it easier to speak fluently and come up with ideas on the spot. If your mind goes blank during the exam, you can start with a familiar opening sentence and then build your answer using a structure you already know. For example, if you're asked about your favorite food, you could say, well, there are several kinds of food I enjoy. One of them is, another one is, and so on. I've tested these templates with intermediate level students who usually struggle to speak quickly, especially when they have to respond within 45 seconds and without preparation. Even more encouraging, one of my pre-intermediate students who is now preparing for the TOEFL with me earned a solid 3.5 out of 4 after using these templates in her responses. So, knowing a few reliable templates and being able to choose the most effective one for each question can make a real difference. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to check out the course using the link below. The good news is that preparing for this part of the test will greatly improve your pronunciation, fluency, and of course your ability to speak on the spot. Now, let's move on to the writing section of the test. At the moment, there are 2 writing tasks. The first is a 20-minute integrated task. You will read a text, then listen to a lecture that contradicts it. After that, you'll write a 150 to 225 word response summarizing both. For example, the reading might argue that zoos are good and give 3 reasons. The lecture will then argue that zoos are bad and explain why each point from the reading is incorrect. Your job is to simply summarize this contrast. The second task is a 10-minute writing for an academic discussion task. In this task, you will give your opinion in an online classroom discussion. The professor will ask a question, and you must respond in writing. You should write at least 100 words, although a strong response is usually around 130 to 150 words. For example, the professor might ask, what is the most important benefit of having a museum in a city? You need to answer the question and support your opinion with details and examples. 2 other students will also share their views, and you should choose a position that is different from theirs. In total, you will have 30 minutes to complete this section. 20 minutes for the integrated task, not including reading and listening time, and 10 minutes for the writing for an academic discussion task. The writing for an academic discussion task will remain the same in the new TOEFL writing section. It's the only task that won't change from the current version of the test. In addition, there will be 2 new writing tasks. Altogether, the writing section will consist of 3 tasks. Build a sentence task, write an email task, write for an academic discussion task. In the Build a Sentence task, you will see 10 sentences. Some will be statements and others will be questions. Your job is to rearrange the words in the boxes to form correct sentences. This task tests your understanding of sentence structure and grammar. You need to know which words come first in a question and when to use inverted word order. From what I've seen, many students struggle with this task because they don't always recognize the correct sentence pattern quickly enough. The second task is the write an email task. If you've prepared for the IELTS before, this task will feel familiar. You will have 7 minutes to write an email. The task itself is quite straightforward. You're given the purpose of the email and 3 bullet points to include. Your job is to choose the appropriate style: informal, semi-formal, or formal, and use the correct vocabulary for each one. For example, you should avoid contractions in a formal email. The main challenge here is the limited time. If your typing speed is slow, it's a good idea to work on it. Writing a clear email in 7 minutes requires both fast typing and quick thinking. The last task is the writing for an academic discussion task, which we have already discussed. Well, that brings us to the end of this long video. I hope I've answered some of your questions. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos about the TOEFL 2026 and which section you find the most challenging. Also, tell me in the comments which test format you prefer and find easier. Just write 2025 or 2026 and let's compare your answers. As always, I wish you the best of luck on your TOEFL journey, and remember, you're more ready than you think. Bye.